In this video here, we're going to show you how to install a brand new ceiling fan as part of your home renovation project. We're going to show you how to disassemble and dismantle the old, ugly ceiling fan to making it look like this. Sleek and modern, LED integrated lights, all chips, no light bulbs needed ever, and remote control. And bring in a much new modern fan. We're going to show you how to deal with the wiring. We're going to show you everything about how to install it, and we'll give you some design ideas and what to look for in a ceiling fan. And it all starts right now. Jeff here, and welcome back to the channel where we give you world-class renovation tips, home remodeling tips, bathroom renovations, flooring, how to do tiles and wood floor, and all sorts of engineering disasters and repairs around your house. We also do tool reviews, and we do live streams from Home Depot, Sam's Club, Lowe's. We always show you the latest, greatest tools and stuff like that. So if you're new to this channel and you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and smash that subscribe button down below. Click on the gray bell icon next to it. That way you'll be alerted every time we upload a video and you won't miss a single one. So today we're going to be taking down this fan. This was kind of lengthy, and I know there's other channels that might put up a 5-minute video that show you how to install a new ceiling fan. But what they don't show you is all of the problems you're likely to encounter along the way. That's why we always make our videos with a little bit more detail so that it won't leave you asking questions, what do I do, what do I do? All right, so you can see here looking at the box that the way to tell what size ceiling fan to buy is by the size of your room. So this is what we call a large room. And up here, you can barely see it in the gray area, but it generally tells you if you have a 12 by 12 up to 18 by 18 foot room, then you would use the 52-inch size fan. Now, if you had a larger room, like 20 feet or by 20 feet or greater, like a great room, then you'd have to step up to like a 58-inch fan or even larger. And likewise, if you had a smaller room, like a 10 by 12 guest bedroom or a 10 by 10, you'd use a 44-inch fan. But I can tell you, most rooms I've ever walked into, people have the wrong fan for the room. They usually have too small of a fan because they were on a budget, and so they went and purchased the wrong fan. So always make sure you have the right fan that can adequately cover your room size. And then, as you know, by law, anything with lights on it, they're supposed to have these new lighting facts tables on them. So as you can tell here, this is telling us here that we have 759 lumens. Now that's kind of disappointing. It's not as many as I would like to see. An average LED light bulb that you buy to put into a light fixture will typically have between 800 and 900 lumens. So this, right off the bat, is not going to be as bright. However, I can tell you that most people, when they put a LED light bulb into their ceiling fan, usually they have these real thick glass alabasters on there that darken the light to sometimes a dark yellow color, that you end up losing half the lumens that you're putting in anyways. So at least this, even though it's got only 759 lumens, what you're doing here is they're going to be all even, and they're all going to be pointing straight down through a nice diffused lens here that's not going to darken the light. And this whole thing will only draw 13 watts. So this particular LED light fixture here that's built in, integrated into this ceiling fan, comes in at 2895 Kelvin in terms of your lighting color temperature. So normally your older incandescent light bulbs are going to be down here at the 2700 Kelvin. So this is starting to get a little bit whiter white. It's not quite at 3000, but it's pretty close to it. And I bet you won't be able to tell the difference between this and 3000 Kelvin. So 3000 Kelvin is what we call sort of a warmish white. It's not white, bright white like fluorescent lights. Those are going to be more or less down in the 5000 range here. But so this is good. This is a perfect range to be in. Anything that's above 2700, I'm not a fan of the yellowish looking glow. It looks darker too. So the whiter you get, the sort of brighter it looks too. So here you can see we have 3 other fans of the same one that we're going to install here. And that's good because it's going to be a consistent look. You're not going to walk into one room and see something that looks just completely different and out of place from another fan. They're all going to look, which gives a similar look throughout this entire townhouse, and which we think will benefit the owner as potential tenants come in to look at it. It usually comes in pretty easily to assemble pieces here. And the fan blades come packaged separately usually, and you have to attach them. This right here is the receiver. Okay. So this goes up inside the canopy, mounted right up against the ceiling. And so that this is the remote, and when it sends the signal goes to this receiver, which then sends all of the proper signals into the fan to control it on, off, speed, light, everything. This right here is our hanging rod here. And I like this because the apparatus screws onto this here with a pin. It's got the pin also. And then this right here is your mounting rack here. Okay, so this right here is your light canopy kit. So in years past, the light canopy kit used to be this whole elaborate thing with 4 sockets to screw light bulbs onto. We don't do that anymore. This is all LED chips. This is chip on board, surface mounted LED chips, integral. And if this whole thing ever fails, you just replace this guy. There's no bulbs to ever have to change, okay? So it's just all of these chips. What I would have liked to have seen is they have all of this space in here. They could have made it wider and put a bunch of more chips on here and made this close to 1100 lumens, which is what I would have preferred. That's my preferred minimum amount of lighting to have up on the ceiling. Okay, now of course you have this. This is our good friend Mr. Mounting Bracket. We see this on virtually every single ceiling fan that you buy. So this is what mounts right to the ceiling, to the fan box there, the outlet box that's up there. And hopefully you have the correct metal box up there that will support the weight of a fan. Okay, now that the top layer of the box is moved out of the way, this is the fan motor assembly here. This is the canopy that goes up near the ceiling here. This right here is this is another sort of a canopy cover. This covers the coupling between the 2 main sections. And this is your lampshade here, so to speak. This is the glass shade here. So this covers your LED light assembly. Now we're ready to put it all together. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how we put these on. And remember, this is so simple. You can do this yourself. You don't need to hire an installer or pay Home Depot to come do it for you. Because it really is pretty easy. It's very similar for all ceiling fans, okay? So I'll show you here. You just put these 3 washers in here like this. Then you put each screw in one at a time. I like to get it started a little bit, see if it'll hold. Sometimes it's hard to do with holding it with your hand and getting it at the right angle there to make it catch. You got your 3 screws in, and you use your Phillips head to tighten it down. See, that one's down. Make sure it's good and snug. Don't try to over tighten it and run the risk of cracking the plastic blades. And as you can see over my head, this is a unique case here because this is one where apparently there wasn't wiring done by the builder ahead of time. And so what a previous owner must have done here is they ran an extension cord along the ceiling here. You can see the conduit tracking here going behind me. It's not even real conduit, it's basically C-channel metal here. And so what they did was they ran it down across the ceiling and down the wall, and it's just plugged into an outlet at the bottom of the wall with a bunch of slack cord behind it. And of course that is a violation of the National Electric Code, not to mention a violation of common sense and logic, because if a kid comes and runs into that and gets all tangled, they can end up ripping it. It's not even attached to the wall, but they could pull it right off the ceiling, and God knows what happens back up here, up at the top here. So I'm curious to find out if there wasn't an outlet box up here before, what's up there now. So let's start disassembling this right now. So to take apart your old ceiling fan, what you really need to do is get a Phillips screw right here. There's a screw on this side and usually one on the other side to loosen this canopy and get him out of the way so you can see what's going on. So the first thing you have to do is you got to cut power. All right, so now that the power is cut, we're going to loosen this Phillips head screw here. And then we'll do the other side. Now we're not going to touch anything yet until I get my little tester up there, okay? Don't touch the wiring yet. All right, so we've cut the power now, and I'm gonna take my Fluke Volt Alert here and test it again and see, so there's nothing. So now I know I'll be safe touching all of these wires here. I won't get shocked. I can't tell you how many times this thing has saved my life over the years. So I'll put a link down in the description to it so you can see it for yourself. But definitely you should have some type of voltage sensing device if you're going to be playing around with electrical work. Because don't ever trust anybody labeling the fuse panel correctly. I've never walked into a house and seen it labeled correctly. In fact, in this particular townhouse, I was helping them out doing some wiring of lights in the kitchen and found that the entire fuse panel was pretty much wrong, except for like the water heater and the stove, you know, the big items, but a lot of the individual circuits and lighting switches, they were all marked wrong. Now that we have the old ceiling fan has been disconnected electrically from the supply lines, here's the supply lines here. What you then do is you walk around this mounting bracket till you find the open side of it, which is this side here, and we want to lift up and out the ceiling fan, which is just hanging by this black half ball right here. So we're going to lift it up and out, see? Now we're completely separated, and we have now removed the ceiling fan off the ceiling. Okay, so now we're left with the mounting bracket, and here's what I'm worried about so far. All right, so we do have to remove that mounting bracket and replace it with this one, since this is the one that came with our new ceiling fan, and it's smaller, and so I want to make sure that the new ceiling fan will fit it properly. I don't want to leave this other one up here. But you can see, I see a problem already. Do you see what's wrong with this picture here? The code violation here? The problem is they never put in a metal box here for a ceiling fan. That's a big problem. We'll know what they did when we unscrew these two here and remove the bracket, but my feeling is that they probably just put two drywall anchors in here, and how they've held is mind-boggling, because I can push up on the ceiling, see that? The whole ceiling's moving here. And so that says to me this thing was not braced between two floor joists, which is the way you're supposed to normally do it. You can either do it with wood 2x4s and attach your metal box to that, or you can buy these conversion kits that connect, they stretch and tighten between two joists up there, and then it has the outlet built onto it, and you can adjust to where the outlet goes to. So those are the two ways that they should have done this, but they did not do it that way. This is illegal. So what I'm showing you here, we're going to keep using this method because it's not in their budget for me to go tearing into the ceiling, running back to go get more parts from Home Depot to make it work right for this situation here. And the time and the cost and hundreds of dollars in drywall, you know, repair and everything and matching the popcorn. It's a much smaller, sleeker, narrower profile design. So this fan weighs a lot less because it doesn't also have all of those glass alabasters there around the light bulbs. And it's a smaller motor housing, so this is probably 1/3 the weight of the old fan that we just took down. Okay, so the hits just keep on coming, folks. I mean, take a look at this one here. So I'm looking at this can. This is the dining room one that I showed you a while ago that I thought was maybe done better, but it's not. Look at this. Who the heck does something like this? Really? Look, I don't care if you're a homeowner, DIYer, or a handyman that maybe doesn't know any better, but even somebody that doesn't know any better should know this is not right. I mean, come on. Don't you know your ceiling fan is going to bounce around all over the place on the ceiling? And it's held in place by some stupid little clip. I don't even know what's going on here. I mean, look, I'm an engineer. I think logically. I can't put myself in the brain of somebody like this and come up with a reason as to why they do stuff like this. So we're going to loosen the screw and find out what sort of little redneck engineering apparatus they set up there and see. But we'll see if we can't improve upon that and get this thing to hold a little better. Because this is not acceptable. You can't mount a ceiling fan to this. And this can is not even the correct can either. So aren't you glad you tuned in on this video? Because now you can see some of the stuff that people do wrong. See, this is not how you balance this. And by the way, this hole on the back here It's really a hole to pass Romex cable through with a connector clip here, like this one here. It's not meant to use as a support for the weight of the fan here. So this whole thing is incorrect. Everything about this is a violation of every common building code as well as common sense. Okay, so as you look here, you can see what they meant to do with this. They have this bar up here that goes between two floor joists. And so it's actually on there nice and solid. A little bendy, but not too bad. All right, so here we are in Home Depot and we're looking at this same part, okay, that's on the shelf there. This is what it's supposed to look like there. See? And what they're showing here is how it's supposed to connect up. The problem is, this is not rated for a ceiling fan. So they should never have used something like this for a ceiling fan. This is only for a ceiling light, a light fixture. That's why they call these adjustable fixture bar hangers. These are not for ceiling fans. So what you're supposed to buy is something like this here. And these are rated for 70 pounds and up. See that? And then you got this screw here. It's supposed to go screw up into this thing here to lock that in place. And the thing is they were supposed to screw it through the box here, but they made a fatal mistake here because you're not supposed to use that hole right there because duh, look what happened. Now there's nothing to hold it in place. That was really dumb. So what they should have done was used one of these little screw holes here. They could have used any one of these holes here to run the screw through it, but they chose not to. Okay, and lastly here, since we're itemizing a laundry list here of all of the failure modes that we see here, do you see what else is wrong here, what they did incorrectly here with this outlet box here? Do you see anything wrong or missing there with that wiring? So here's the problem, and this is wiring 101, folks. This is just, whoever did this didn't have the first clue over what they were doing. So look at this right here. Here's your ground wire that comes into that metal box there. According to National Electric Code, and this is wiring 101, okay, this is one of the basics. This is supposed to be bonded to the metal box, and it wasn't. It just came right in and they tied it right into the fan. So that is not proper. The way you're supposed to bond this to the box is you would put a ground screw right there and wrap this copper wire around it. That way this box is definitely guaranteed to be bonded to the system ground. The reason why you have to do that is if you don't bond this box to the ground and this black wire somehow pops loose and shorts against that metal box like that and somebody comes up and touches it, they can get shocked. And so that's why it's such a crucial, critical part of wiring to remember that whenever you're dealing with a metal outlet box, they always have to be bonded to the system ground. There's no excuse for not doing it. This guy, whoever did this, just was completely ignorant, had absolutely no talent here in wiring. Okay, so this is our proposed solution to solve the problem. So this right here, believe it or not, this piece of plastic looking thing here is a ceiling fan outlet box. And you're going, what? That's not what they look like. They're usually metal, right? Well, this is a nice, thick, tough plastic. And this one here will support up to a 70-pound ceiling fan. You look at this weird shape, you go, what the heck is this? So the way this works is really kind of cool, actually. So you take a piece of 2x4 here that you would normally run between two floor joists, and you can see this outlet here just kind of wraps around the wood. See that? And what it does is from underneath you screw into the wood there. Now you're securely in, and that's a much better way of doing it. And then you can do all of your wiring inside of this little box here. Okay, so the only problem we have now is we don't have floor joists or ceiling joists, you know, up there above the drywall. What we have is these metal trusses that support the whole ceiling and the metal furring strips here. So there's no way to attach wood like this between any joists because there are none. So what we have to do then is we're going to just get this up inside the ceiling there, and we're going to screw up through the drywall to secure here. We're going to put a bunch of screws here and a bunch of screws here. Not the best method in the world of doing it, not my favorite way of doing it, but it will work in this case, since they were already using the drywall here for the previous ceiling fan that was here. We should be able to do it as well. It's not my preferred method of doing this. I prefer to be able to secure structure first, but there really is no way to do it in this case right now. That's why this bar wiggles too much, because the method that they used to try to support that didn't work. The first thing we do is we shove the wires down into that Romex connector opening there on the can, and we'll just push it just enough in there so that it's in there. And here's your wires coming out the bottom there like that. Okay, so now I've got my wood piece up there. See that right there? It's just sitting there. I'm going to make sure it's right across the middle there. See, so this will fit over it properly. And then we're going to add our screws right here to secure to the bottom of it. Okay, so what I do is I just grab the 2x4 here, hold on to it snugly, and I'll run a screw up into it. Okay, so you can see up here we've gone out several inches in either direction here with drywall screws. So the stud is running across here now, and it's perfectly in great shape there. It's rock solid. So now we've started to secure the can to our wood 2x4 there, and we're going to put the last screw on there. Okay, so now this whole thing is now completely, totally immovable. It is absolutely rock steady, and it's not going anywhere. So this is much better than what we had before here, okay? Because what they had there before was completely wobbling, and that's what led to all of their problems, was the wobbling. So now we're ready to proceed with the installation of the fan as normal. Okay. Now to start assembling the fan, we have to remove this hitch pin here and this locking pin, and then we have to undo this set screw and pull the ball off of there. The reason why we have to do that is we now have to thread this onto the top of the motor here. So all of these wires have to run up through here, and we have to take this off so that we can slip the canopy cover, and there's two canopy covers that go down over that, and then we screw the ball back on and lock it back down with the pin. Okay, so we just pull out the little clip pin, pull out the locking pin. Okay, so that's now loosened. And then what we do is we just kind of lower this down. See, now there's our pin, and it comes right out. And we can raise this up and off, and we're ready. Okay, so keep in mind that your ceiling fan might be slightly different, but they all sort of do the same thing, where you're feeding the wire up through, you're putting something onto something else. Remember, this comes down. This has to thread onto the top of it. So we do it like this. Thread all the wires through there. And okay, so now as you're screwing it down nice and tight, remember that right here, this opening is where your pin, remember this locking pin, he has to go in there. So you want to make sure that those holes will line up, so now you can put the pin back in. See how it popped in on the other side there? Now I can come back on the other side and add the little locking pin. So that's your fail-safe. Should this thing ever come unscrewed, it won't ever turn, see? Okay, now that that's back in place, you need to retighten any set screws here that you'll typically find here. That's what helps really keep this thing locked into position there. You don't want any wobbling later on. So this is one of the causes of wobbling, is when people don't tighten these set pins down. Because once this rod here is threaded in, these two should be as one, like love and marriage, husband and wife. They should be rock solid. When one moves, the other moves. Where you go, I go. So these have to be really good and tightened. Make sure they're not going anywhere. Okay, so next up on the bill now is our coupling cover. So he's going to come in like this, and he's meant to go down like that and face in that direction. And then the next thing that comes is we have our canopy cover. So this will cover just the bottom side of the canopy here. This is that little ring. You'll see this a lot on a lot of ceiling fans here. So this is going to face upward like this, see? And it will clip on to the bottom of the canopy, like that. So we'll just put him right there for now. And we take the wire. So this is why you got to be careful and make sure you do everything in the proper order and in the proper orientation. See, like this would be wrong. If you put this in like this, you can't just slip it in without paying attention. You got to know exactly which direction these things have to go in, or you're going to be wrong, and you won't find out until you go to hang it, and then you're going to be really mad that you did all the wiring and everything was wrong. So this is the way these are going to stack up when this thing is done. Okay, so now on the last piece, and keep in mind, everything involving this whole apparatus, the wires have to feed through, including the ball. Don't forget that. So now we're going to put the ball back on, but we have to put it on and put him down here first so that we can stick this hanging pin back through there. So we've got this guy on there like that. And then we're going to lift it back up and find the slot, see, like this, so it can fit right around the pin like that. Grab the screwdriver and retighten the set screws. Make sure they're good and tight on both sides. If there was only one, yeah, there was only one set screw here. So this one here, you just make sure it's on there good and tight. Now everything's in the proper orientation, just the way we want it to be. Now we're ready to hang the fan. Okay, now here's one feature that I want you to be aware of here. On the ball before we hang it, you see this slot here? So there's going to be a groove type thing, a tab. There will be a tab type feature on the mounting bracket when we go to hang it. So when we hang it and set this ball in the bracket, we'll turn it around in place until this clicks in, okay? And that's what keeps this whole thing from spinning around. So when we go to hang the fan, remember, see this opening right here? The ball's going to fit right in here, and over this opening is where the rod's going to go, right through here. And then we'll set it down, and then we'll turn it, and that feature that I told you about is right here, that little tab. This will lock into the groove in the ball, and it will keep the whole apparatus from spinning around as we install this new ceiling fan. All right, so our hole is right here, going right over the top, and we set it down. See that? Now we're going to turn it around. Okay, so there's the fan just sort of hanging in place there. Now you really couldn't see it, but I turned the ball around so that it clipped into place, so now it won't rotate at all. Now we start on the wiring. Okay, so before we wire everything up, I just wanted to go over this with you with the remote control and the receiver. They both have to be set to the same frequency. So you see these dip switches here? So these here are all set to 0 by the factory. And same with these here. You want to double check and make sure they're all set to the same, because they have to be on the same frequency in order to talk. Now, if you're only installing one fan, your work is done. But we're going to be installing 3 more of these fans. We are going to have a total of 4 of these ceiling fans installed here as part of this renovation project here in this house. So what we have to do is we have to change the dip switches for each other set of receiver and the remote control for each of the other fans. So I'll change the dip switch settings. Maybe I'll move the second button up on the next set on both of these, right? And then on the fan after that, I'll do the third button up, the third switch rather. We'll slide up the third dip switch, and then the third dip switch. And then when we go to do the 4th fan, we'll do the same thing. We'll do the 4th switch up and the 4th switch up. So that's how you keep them all different so that they don't interfere with each other. If you set them on the same frequency and forget to change these, you'll have one remote control turning on fans all over the house. Okay, one other thing to keep in mind, this is the old switch. This was a dimmer switch. You're not allowed to hook up an old or any kind of dimmer switch to this thing because the dimming is done by the remote control. So if you hook up a dimmer, they say that you could ruin the unit. And so we have to make sure that we remove this dimmer and we twist the wires together inside the box behind this. Since we want this to always have power enabled up at the ceiling there, up top. And with the power enabled up there, we just use the remote control which we'll probably mount over here somewhere, maybe on it next to the wall. We'll have to get a different plate here to cover up the old dimmer here. Okay, so here is your receiver that goes mounted up in the canopy of the light. So I just wanted to review this real quick with you. The black and the white wire input on the left here, these come from the line, okay? And this one here, that's the input, so the output is right here. And so the output has 3 wires, the white wire, which is the neutral, and it's got the black wire, which tells the fan to turn on, and it has the blue wire here. The blue wire on all of these remotes almost always goes to the light, so it helps control the light. So this thing is basically a smart switch that stands between the line voltage here and the controls of the light of the fan. And so normally before these you would just connect them directly. So this is acting like a smart switch here, and this will actually change the voltage of this blue wire here to make those LEDs brighter or dimmer. And likewise, it will change the voltage of this black line here in order to make your fan go faster or slower. All right, so here you can see we've tied the 3 ground wires together. So usually with the fans, there's 2 green ground wires. One is attached to the mounting bracket because it's metal and it must be grounded. The other green wire goes down into the fan and it grounds the fan inside the fan body there. And then the last one, which let me put it over here for you to see, is that bare ground wire right there. See that? You see it going up into the ceiling? That's the main ground. That goes all the way back to the fuse panel. This way, this fan and the mounting bracket are completely grounded. They're bonded to the system ground there. Now, since we're not using a metal can up there, that can does not need to be bonded. But as I showed you earlier, the previous installer should have grounded that can and did not. And that's, like I said, wiring 101. That's like complete, total rookie mistake there. Okay, so you can see here we started to put the receiver in. We have the white wires are tied together for the input to the line, and the black ones right back up here. You can barely see way back in there if you look closely. You can see in the background there, the connector for it, the orange connector. So there's the white one and the black one connected together. Now we're going to connect the grounds here. So there's the ground coming out of the ceiling. Once those are done, I can then come back around here and connect these 3 up for the light to the other side, the output side of the receiver. And this is the receiver's antenna. Now you have to be very patient when you're putting these in here, these receivers. My complaint has always been that they never make these housings for the receiver small enough to fit into the space there in the mounting bracket. You're always fighting and fighting with it until you can finally get it to just barely perfectly fit in. It's such a squeaker. They really need to get those things down in size. All right, so now what we're going to do is I've already connected up the black wire from the receiver here to the black wire of the fan. So that's the first output that goes to the fan from the receiver, okay? So now what we're going to do is twist up the 2 white wires. So here's the white wire here that goes to the receiver. This goes to the fan. This one is coming from the receiver. So what we do is we twist them up together here, like that. And then we're going to take the orange wiring nut and stick it on there. I like to squeeze the wires together parallel like that so that it's twisting really good, and it allows that nut to get on there even tighter. See that? So now the black and the white are together, and now we're going to mate up the 2 blue wires. This is the one that controls the light and how bright the light is, depending on the voltage that is applied onto this wire for the ceiling fan by the transmitter based on your command through the remote for the ceiling fan. So this, I'm going to bend it back a little to thicken it up some, see, like that. We'll put the wiring nut on there. I'm actually going to switch to a wider one on this one. So there you go. So all 3 of them are now wired up. Everything's wired up here now. I'm just going to connect up. So everything is all connected up now. Okay. So I just had to reroute this ground to get it around the outside of the housing here of the bracket, because when I ran it through the middle, I couldn't get the transmitter to fit in there. Okay, now as we finish the wiring on the ceiling fan, I've shoved all of the other wiring nuts up here. This one I couldn't get in there because it just has to be right there. That's the only place I can get it to fit. Then what you do is you raise up your canopy and make sure it covers everything. And you're looking for the screw that's right here on the bottom of the mounting bracket that's sticking out right there. And see how it latches onto the screw there now? Now you've got it in place there, and then you just, there's a screw that goes in on the other side. You twist it back around here till you find the hole where it's supposed to go, and you screw it in. Okay, now here for the LED light kit here. What we have to do is take off these 3 screws here so that we can remove the LED off of the housing here, because this housing here, these 3 holes here, have to mount to the bottom of the fan assembly. So let's go ahead and get these undone now. So this one here, and here. Okay, so there is it's hard to believe that this is your entire light right here. In the old days, it was these big old sockets and light bulbs and everything, and it's all been reduced to a thin little disc. So this is the part here that we're going to mount up to the ceiling fan. Now you take your bracket here, you stick it right up in here like this, lock it into those 2, and we'll tighten these down. Then you take the 3rd screw back here, and you screw him in there nice and tight. Now we're going to insert the LED disc there that has all of the chips on it. Okay, so this just plugs in here to the connector. Okay, there we go. So that is plugged in now. And we're going to put that back up on the screws that it was on and rotate it like that. We'll tighten these 2 down. And you want to line it up with the other. There's an arrow there and there's an arrow here. So I'm going to line them up like that. See if that works. And then you just turn it till it locks into place, and that's all there is to it. All right, so now I'm in the darkened room. The fan has been installed, and let's test it out and see how it looks. I'm going to turn the light on first, and you can see it comes on pretty good. Now if you hold the light button down, usually it goes brighter and then dims. It goes from dim all the way down to all the way bright. So that's why they don't want you to hook a dimmer switch up to these fans, because the dimming is all done by the remote here. So this isn't too bad. It could be a little brighter, you know, like I said, but if you have other lighting in the room, it will help out. So now let's see how it blows. I'm going to put it on high. And keep in mind the canopy, I had to do some more work up in there. The canopy, it needs to be reseated back up there. But you can see it's whisper quiet. Certainly appreciate you folks stopping by and hanging out to the end here. I know this was kind of lengthy, and I know there's other channels that might put up a 5-minute video that show you how to install a new ceiling fan. But what they don't show you is all of the problems you're likely to encounter along the way. That's why we always make our videos with a little bit more detail, so that it won't leave you asking questions. What do I do? What do I do? You're not going to get that from the other videos, that's for sure. So you're always going to find yourself having to fix wiring mistakes or fan installation mistakes from the previous ceiling fan installer. That's just the way life is. So we hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you click on that subscribe button down below and click on the bell icon next to it so you will be alerted every single time we upload a new video. And that's it for this week, folks, and we will see you on the next one.